It's time for the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
William Byron comes to the flag and wins the Cookout 400.
Oh, you saw those ruby red cars quite a bit throughout the course of that race on Sunday at Martinsville, and it's a ruby red win for William Byron in the number 24 car. Plenty to talk about when it comes to that special paint scheme that you saw absolutely dominate at the paperclip, and of course the backstory behind it. We'll get into all of that here on the Cupdate. Hey, welcome back to the Cupdate. I'm happy to be back on the Cupdate after a few week break there for my honeymoon. Back and ready to talk some NASCAR with everybody at home. And well, folks, there's a lot to talk about right now in NASCAR. And of course, we're going to get to next week at Texas. We're going to get to everything that has to do with the short track package. A lot of talk about the short track package right now when it comes to the Cup Series. And what do they do? What the heck are we going to do to make things better? Let's start with what we saw this past weekend. Let's start with a little rapid recap from there in Martinsville. And early on, Kyle Larson absolutely dominated from lap 1 to the end of stage 1, taking care of business and earning that stage 1 win. Then stage 2 was weird. It was very weird. Joey Logano stayed out, only got the two tires instead of 4, and that proved to be a good decision. I mean, he ended up fading at the end of the run, but certainly a bigger point when it comes to this race was that Logano decision. We'll get into that in just a bit. But hey, from there, it was all about Team Hendrick. We see it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those ruby red cars. Larson did very well early. Chase Elliott had a great race. Good to see him back up there in the top 5. Alex Bowman ends up in the top 10. And that 4th car right there, William Byron, he is your winner, as William Byron would go on to pick up his 3rd victory of the year. And here's an interesting thing about those 3 different wins for William Byron. Obviously, he won the Great American Race right here in Daytona and North Florida. He also won on the road course at COTA, and now a short track victory. So William Byron pilots that number 24 to victory lane, and he's done it on 3 different courses. He's proven that he is one of the best drivers on one of the best teams in NASCAR's Cup Series. And if you're not already used to seeing that car in victory lane, obviously the 24 has been in victory lane plenty, but with William Byron as the driver, well, you should start getting used to it now.
I think the more times that you win races, the more you realize how difficult it is and how many things have to go right. And just to stay on that edge to have what it takes to win is difficult. So we've been working super hard. I think we've learned and refined some things as we get through stretches where we have some difficult runs. But there's less doubt in our team that we can do it. And I feel like that is a unique thing that comes with winning races, is knowing that you're capable. If you get everything right and you do your job, you can still win. So, but yeah, everyone's really hard. I mean, today it was obvious. You know, we had a great car, but it was really difficult to get to the front.
Yeah, it took him about 400 laps to get to the front, and we mentioned this is a guy who was racing really well this year in a really fast car and a really good team. Still took him 400 laps to get his way to the front through all the traffic, and we'll get into more of that here as this Cup Date goes on. We take you out to the NASCAR Cup Date wall, just 18 races now until we hit the postseason, and it was, in fact, Hendrick's day to shine as 1, 2, 3. You've heard it tons of times. If you watch the broadcast, you certainly heard it plenty of times. The fact that this was the first time in Martinsville history that one race team had swept the top 3 positions at the track. And of course, William Byron takes home the grandfather clock ahead of his teammates Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. And as mentioned, 8th place for Alex Bowman. So not too bad for the other guy, right? And this was a big, meaningful race for Team Hendrick. 40 years ago, thus the ruby red. Rubies are what you're supposed to give for 40th anniversary, in case you didn't know that. I hope I get to 40 years, long time from now, and be able to give a ruby gift. We'll see what happens with that down the road. But you talk about the big day for Hendrick, 40th anniversary of their first win that came at Martinsville by Jeff Bodine way back in the day. And for them to have 1,500 members of the staff on site to witness the big race, the 1, 2, 3. Rick Hendrick was not there after a surgery about a month ago, but just about every other employee was there, including his now right-hand man, Jeff Gordon.
to see our folks rally behind this milestone and this moment, this day, and get on buses early this morning and come up here, and you know, the music was going. They were partying up there pretty early, so they had a good time. And to be able to cap that off with the victory, you know, like what this is going to do for our company. Is incredible, right? To be able to have them that engaged with a day like today, our history, but also making history at the same time.
You know, when you walk in the doors at Hendrick Motorsports, it is just fascinating to me how clean everything is, how nice everything is, and then how the culture is with the people inside there. And being able to go up to anyone and ask a question. There's a real racer's mindset to go fast and compete, but at the same time, they took me in with open arms, you know, when I was 20 years old, and made me feel at home. So I think that's special, and you don't have that everywhere.
Of course, William Byron's still a very young driver, but he's been able to race for Team Hendrick the whole time. That's not bad. Jump into one of the best teams in all of NASCAR. Take a look at some of the other notable results from the race. We mentioned Joey Logano had that big performance there in stage number 2. He ends up in 6th place overall for the race. Bowman in 8th. Denny Hamlin, he was a factor towards the end. Tried to take some tires at the end. That didn't work on a late caution. How about Todd Gilliland? He was fast, and he ends up with the top 15. Kyle Busch actually ended a lap down. We'll hear more from Kyle Busch and his thoughts on the short tracks here in a little bit. But first, how about a little more reaction from some of those top 5 finishers, guys like Bubba Wallace, as well as Chase Elliott, who both wind up in the top 5.
Just believing in the team. I got a text today that says, if you worry, then that takes the trust out of your team and out of yourself. So I kept telling myself to trust the process. And here we are. 2 years ago, it's hard to stay focused on all that. Well, now I'm wanting more. You know, I want to give more effort, and I expect the same out of everybody. And I think that's what is going to propel us.
I feel like really all year long we've been working in a good direction, and things have been just our communication is good. We're talking about the right things. We're executing our conversations during the week and taking that to the racetrack. Pit stops have been good. Alan's calling good races. Like, all the stuff is there. I feel like we just got to get over the hump at some point, and you know, like I said, you keep doing that and keep putting yourself in contention, you'll get your turn one day.
Well, here's the thing. Chase Elliott didn't have his turn a year ago. Didn't make the playoffs, didn't get a win. Is he going to join Victory Lane at some point this season? The biggest hindrance to that fact might be these two guys right here, Larson and Byron. Every time that Elliott's got a good car, his teammates are just a little bit better. I do think Elliott will get a win before the season is over. He can't go 2 years in a row without a win. NASCAR will make it happen, as we say. We'll see what happens with that. You take a look at your latest driver standings, and yeah, no surprise. There's Larson and Byron, 1 and 4. Elliott in 6th, Bowman in 10th. Again, the Hendrick domination here early in the season is a big storyline. Of course, guys in green have already won. You talk about Martin Truex Jr. He is another one of those drivers who's been very consistent this year. Blaney coming back for a top 5 despite what was a really bad sequence there at the end of the stage. One of the stages had to come back in for a second pit stop, put him all the way in the back, and you don't want to be all the way in the back at a track like Martinsville. And that's what happened to Ryan Blaney in that race. All right, so what are we doing? Let's talk about the short track package. And I know this is just going to be such a huge topic for all the fans and really anybody involved in the industry. Are you panicking at home? Are you worried about just the dilemma that NASCAR has right now when it comes to these short track races? You think about some of those short tracks, and in the past few years, since the next gen, the Gen 7 car came out, it hasn't been great. I went to the race at Martinsville in 2022. You didn't see a whole lot of passing in that one. And now over these last couple years, NASCAR just has not been able to come up with a solution as to why that short track package doesn't work with the new next gen car. The cars can't pass. They can't get close enough to the guy in front of them to knock him out of the way. I mean, the best example of it was towards the end of stage 2, Austin Dillon, who was a lap down, trying not to go 2 laps down, managed to hold off the entire field of leaders just simply because they couldn't pass them. That's not good. You need the guys who are leading the race and who are showing all the speed to get past them, whether it be using their speed or, heck, using the chrome bumper on the front and knock them out of the way. You need that. You absolutely need that in this scenario. So is it a dilemma? Yes, it's a dilemma. This is something that NASCAR has to fix. You talk about Bristol, Richmond, Martinsville, North Wilkesboro. I mean, these are tracks that are supposed to be the cream of the crop. I know North Wilkesboro only came back last year, but even in that limited all-star race, still wasn't good. It wasn't great. What's Iowa going to look like when they go there later this year? This is a new track for the Cup Series to head to. Are they going to be able to fix the tire problems? We talked about Joey Logano and that tire. Those left side tires ran for 180 laps. They shouldn't be able to do that. They did in that track because Goodyear and NASCAR have collaborated to create this hard tire that they can't wear out. We saw at Bristol what happens when you can wear one out. It was great. People had to manage tires. You had to put some strategy into it. We enjoyed that racing, didn't we? Well, NASCAR has to find a way to recreate that instead of accidentally stumbling upon that if they want these short tracks to be successful once again and to bring the energy that this sport needs from its short tracks. Heading into this race weekend, so this is before Martinsville, Kyle Busch weighed in on the latest when it comes to short tracks.
I didn't think we could make it worse, but by golly, we did. For me anyways, like maybe it's just because we don't have it quite figured out like others do, but I cannot follow anybody in front of me whatsoever. It doesn't matter if I'm in the bottom lane, the middle lane, the top lane. If there is a car in front of me, I am terrible, really bad. I will say the only positive to it is that you can slide the back of the car around a little bit more and not crash. But the front ends are just ungodly, not working.
Thank goodness for Kyle Busch. He's never going to sugarcoat it, right? He's always going to tell you exactly how he feels about it. And by the way, so are the fans. The fans have been weighing in on social media. 2024 has been miserable aside from Atlanta. I wouldn't go that far, but certainly on the short tracks it has. 2 years later, we still can't figure out this car on short tracks. What a yawn fest. I'm not watching another short track race this year. It's complete trash. I mean, these are supposed to be the good ones. These are the ones that you tell your friends who've never been to a race. You tell them, go to Daytona, go to Talladega, the super speedways, or go to a short track, go to a Bristol night race, go to a place like Martinsville. It's kind of hard to do that right now when you're just talking about it. Here's a good example, by the way, at AR_analytics, final 50 laps of the race. If it was based on their median lap speed, this is where the top 15 cars would have finished. They should be far more spread out than this. Basically, everybody's going the exact same speed because they couldn't pass anybody. You're just stuck right behind the other car. You can't get around them. You can't move up in the race, and that proves to be issues. Heck, the only time there might have been good tire wear would have been William Byron's burnout at the end of the race. Bob Pockrass with the quiet track pick. Always love a good quiet track pick, right? I don't know. It was tough out there. You hear some more fan reaction. You got to stop putting the emphasis on Goodyear Racing to fix the tire. Wish they would come out and say that it's something happening behind closed doors. NASCAR fix the car, Goodyear Racing will adapt the tire. So there's a little bit of both, right? Is it the tire? Is it the car? Is it the package? Do they need more horsepower? Is that going to solve everything? Elton Sawyer, Senior Vice President of Competition, saying, quote, "We are working as hard as we can with Goodyear, and we need to work harder." Yeah, so they're working daily to improve the short track product. Here's the thing. You talk about Martinsville. Martinsville is the second to last race of the season. This is something they have to get right because that sets up your Final Four for the playoffs to see who decides the champion. It's not like a normal sport where you could just throw one out. That is an important pivotal race that is going to play a big role in who competes for the championship. As a Ryan Blaney fan, I wasn't upset that he won it last year, but you know what? They got to get that fixed by the time we get to Martinsville later in the year. All right, my most impressive driver of the race, I'm going to hand it to Ryan Preece. How about a ninth place finish for Preece? He's a short track guy, so he's supposed to do that, right? Well, it's not always that easy. He comes in, gets a top 10. He was 31st in the points coming into the race. By the way, his teammate, Chase Briscoe, ends up in 10th. So not a bad weekend overall for Stuart Haas. All right, next up here on the Cupdate and next up in the series is an intermediate track, but it's one that's disappointed of late. Texas Motor Speedway. Can the excitement from Vegas and Phoenix come back at Texas? We shall see. That is next, right here on the Cupdate. What started out as better people, better projects just keeps getting, well, better. That's Better Exterior Solutions, ready to help you create a better outdoor experience. Check this out. Motorized pergolas are the latest in technology to transform your outdoor space. Beautiful day? Let the sun shine through. Summer rainstorm? These pergola systems close automatically to keep the weather out. From residential to commercial uses, Better Exterior Solutions has products customized to meet virtually any existing architectural structure. With retractable awnings, screens, and hurricane shutters too, if you want unparalleled quality and expertise, you need Better Exterior Solutions. Get a free estimate by visiting betterexteriors.com or calling 904-902-4999. Better Exterior Solutions. Experience better.
You're watching the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
All right, so plenty of talk about Martinsville, enough of that. How about Texas Motor Speedway? You think they were excited to see that kind of racing? It takes the heat off them, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I don't think anyone's excited to see a bad race, what is perceived as a bad race. I don't know. If you're a William Byron fan, was it a bad race? If you're Rick Hendrick, was it bad? Probably not. Anyhow, trucks, of course, get it started Friday night. Xfinity Series Saturday, so that means Cup Series practice and qualifying going to be in the morning on Saturday. A little early start to the day. Get your coffee ready. And then the Cup Series Sunday afternoon, 3:30. Catch that race on FS1. Texas Motor Speedway, one of those intermediate tracks, and the next one up on the schedule. So a lot of eyes now wondering, what's the racing going to look like at Texas? Here's the problem. It hasn't looked good at Texas lately. But William Byron did get the win here a year ago in 2023 in the fall. So William Byron very well could keep it rolling and pick up another victory in this one here at Texas, since he's been so strong really everywhere they've run so far this year. But the problem with Texas is that drivers have such a hard time passing there. But that's not a short track issue. That's a track issue. That's the fact that they can't get an upper groove to work without the danger of just wrecking constantly. And that's something we saw the last couple of years here with the next-gen car. Drivers able to weigh in this week about Texas and what they kind of expect as they head to Fort Worth this upcoming weekend.
See how it is. It's I think Texas has kind of just been a work in progress. I feel like, for the last few years, or ever since it got repaved, it's okay. How can we get it wider? How can we get the racing better there? So that's something where we'll see if it's changed over the past year. I'm not sure if it has, but we'll find out.
Of course, we all wish we could do more there. I wish I could pass more. It's truly one of the hardest tracks to pass, in my opinion. So it makes, when I get a pass done, I like sometimes physically celebrate in the car on the next straightaway because I just did it. I did the what I thought was impossible. Timing that out, and then as it ages, hopefully it opens up a little bit more and more. But we'll see.
I'm excited to get there next week. We were the dominant car there last year, and I just made a mistake on a late restart. So, we've won an all-star race there. We've won a cup race there, and then we've led a bunch of laps in other races. So, I look forward to getting there and hopefully have another good weekend.
Driving that place, very different corners. You really have to be fully on the throttle and convince yourself that this car is going to stick when you get into turn 3, even though if you don't know if it's going to or not. So, we'll see, but hopefully it's miraculously aged to where we've somehow been able to get 5 lanes there, but we'll find out next week.
I love, by the way, that Kyle Larson, who has been dominant at that track, is like, I can't wait to go back. Well, yeah, of course. He's been racing really well, so of course he's going to want to get back to Texas. We'll see what next week's Cup Date sounds like as far as the reactions. Maybe Kyle Busch will go on another tirade. Would love that. We'll see what happens. All right, still to come here on the Cup Date. We head to a different drive. This time we do it Formula One style. I'll give my take on a personal experience when it comes to Formula One. That is coming up next right here on the Cupdate. What started out as better people, better projects just keeps getting, well, better. That's Better Exterior Solutions, ready to help you create a better outdoor experience. Check this out. Motorized pergolas are the latest in technology to transform your outdoor space. Beautiful day? Let the sun shine through. Summer rainstorm? These pergola systems close automatically to keep the weather out. From residential to commercial uses, Better Exterior Solutions has products customized to meet virtually any existing architectural structure. With retractable awnings, screens, and hurricane shutters too, if you want unparalleled quality and expertise, you need Better Exterior Solutions. Get a free estimate by visiting betterexteriors.com or calling 904-902-4999. Better Exterior Solutions. Experience better.
You're watching the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
All right, if you don't know the name Connor Zilisch, you will down the road. 17-year-old up-and-coming driver. Recently on the social media is making some comparisons when it comes to NASCAR and Formula One. The article's headline reads, F1 makes NASCAR look like the county fair. Personally, I love a county fair. You get a turkey leg, you could see some pigs racing, but I digress. Zilisch would then send a follow-up tweet to clear it up a bit, as he was referring to the hospitality and fan experience, not the racing. Zilisch, may I remind you, 17 years old. He's working his way up the NASCAR ladder. He did finish 4th in a truck's debut earlier this year. Will make an Xfinity start at the Glen later this year in the 88 car. So he's a road course racer. He's a guy who possibly could have gone that F1 route. And there's been a lot of talk about Formula One versus NASCAR really over the last few years, and they're completely different. As mentioned, I just went on a big trip. Included in that big trip was a stop in Melbourne, Australia to check out qualifying day for Formula One as they had the Australian Grand Prix there in Melbourne. And this was the first time I was able to attend a Formula One event. Look, I've gone to plenty of NASCAR events, to probably 7 or 8, maybe 9 different tracks now at this point in my life. For those of us here in Northeast Florida, I'm going to give you a little bit of an example as far as how I would compare a Formula One experience versus a NASCAR experience. You've been to the Players Championship, right? Everyone at home probably has, or a golf tournament. Kind of felt like that to me. You're there for the experience. You're there to hang out with friends, get some food, get some drink, and catch 1/18 of the action. Because on a golf course, you're not going to see the whole course. On a Formula One course, it's the exact same thing, especially one as big as that one. You can get one corner, but then you're probably watching it on a monitor. NASCAR, well, you're watching the entire race usually, depending on the track. I know Daytona can get a little dicey, Talladega, same thing. So while yes, they are completely different forms of racing. In NASCAR, you have 20 different guys who can win. In Formula One, you have Max Verstappen unless his car catches on fire. I mean, that's kind of, and I like Max Verstappen. I'm Dutch, I should like him, right? 2 completely different experiences. Maybe they got the hospitality thing going on for them in Formula One, but even with this recent short track debacle, I will take a race weekend in NASCAR just about every week. My personal experience, figured I'd weigh in. I had the chance to kind of do that for you here on the Cupdate, and I appreciate everybody joining us here for the Cupdate. We'll be back coming up next week. We'll leave you with one last look at a quiet track at Martinsville, but not quiet when it comes to opinions across the world of NASCAR. We'll see you next week right here on the Cupdate.
Thanks for watching the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.